Welcome back to the channel. It's Saturday evening. It's time to talk about the very best comic books that you can buy this week with a little Rant-a-Rooski up front. Here to talk with me, as always, is my good friend Drew from Comics Lead. How you doing, Drew?
Doing great, Wes. Yeah, it's a Saturday. Let's talk about some great comics. Let's do this.
Well, before we do that, there are no DC comic books to recommend because this week, DC's Night Terrors kicked off. 6 comic books associated with Night Terrors in the first wave, including the Batman one and First Kill, which I guess is their alpha issue. The only other 3 books I think are Steelworks, John Kent, and there's another one out there. Basically nothing else for people to buy. And I think this is an enormous fiasco on DC Comics' part because for the most part, these comic books don't seem to be all that good anyway. I only read the First Blood and Batman comic books, and I don't even know why this is an event. What the fuck are they even trying to do here?
You know, so I've had the displeasure of reading these twice. Now, I read these over a week ago, and I read them again last night just to be sure that they were as bad as I thought they were. Some are worse than others. Yeah, this is you hit the nail on the head with the word fiasco. This is a fiasco. This is a 2-month-long fiasco they have on their hands here. These stories are not good. Reading these comics are nightmares. These stories aren't nightmares themselves. I like Josh Williamson. I respect him, but this is a complete misfire, and this is a 2-month-long misfire, and I don't see this getting any better anytime soon.
And let's talk about Josh Williamson, who I think is a perfectly fine writer. But he has done multiple events now leading up to this. You know, he had Flash War, obviously had Dark Crisis. He also had the
Shadow War, Shadow Zone, whatever it was,
something like that. There was also the thing after Future State, whatever that was, Infinite Frontier. That's the one that he had, and none of them have turned out well, or actually been acclaimed, or even sold. And he's doing his second straight horror-themed DC Comics event in a row. You know, basically within months of the last one ending. He did Dark Knights or DC Dark Crisis, and now he's doing Night Terrors. Has the guy ever written a successful horror-based comic book in his entire life? Why do they keep going back to him to do events? And 2, why does he keep doing horror? He's no good at it.
You are 100% correct. He is not good at horror. And I would think I know. And so would Kyle, because we are horror connoisseurs. In reading these books, there's nothing scary about them, especially the First Blood issue. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Howard Porter. He is a terrific artist. Mm-hmm. But it's not, his art isn't horror related. His art is not good horror, and it's too bright. That First Blood comic, everything was just too bright, and art is beautiful, but it doesn't translate to horror. There's nothing scary about it. When you do a story like this, you can't help but compare it to other horror stories in the past that DC have done correctly, like say Blackest Night, Jeff Johns. That was
started.
Oh, I love Blackest Night. I love
Amazing.
it. Yeah, art is terrific. It is truly terrifying. And there's nothing terrifying about this. And Josh Williamson, like you said, he's a good writer, but I think events like these are too big for his britches. And he's convinced someone or a group of people at DC that he can do this stuff, but he can't do this. He can't handle big events like this, especially horror. And someone at DC needs to step in and be like, "Hey, Josh, we're gonna bring back down your role a bit. We're gonna have you do like maybe 1 or 2 titles, but not events. No more events for a while with you."
There are so many things going on at DC right now that are actually worth reading, and it hasn't been like that in quite some time. Green Lantern's pretty darn good. Green Arrow's good. Superman's pretty good. There are some books out there that people should be excited about, and to put them all on hiatus for 2 months for a pretty damn mid event, you know, that starts out this weekend. I'm not going to come back and read any of these comic books again because the first 2 tastes on it just sucked. They weren't very good.
Yeah, this is once again a publisher shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly, not just once, repeatedly. And it's a shame, really, because a lot of these books that really have just gotten started, like Green Lantern, 2 issues in, we're taking a 2-month hiatus on that to do this stuff. And I don't know if you read the Joker Night Terrors.
No.
Oh, it is
Matthew Rosenberg. No way.
It is a double-sized comic. It is the only one that's double-sized, and it is terrible. And and it's one of those things where you take a step back and you say to yourself, DC, do you mean to tell me right now that you put a new Green Lantern series on hiatus for this shit? Are you kidding me right now? It's shocking. And I want to know really who put some of these creators on these books, because these stories suck. There's nothing scary about them. it really they need to answer for themselves. We need answers. We need explanations for these stories and these creators being involved in this stuff. It is not good.
I will say this: you're not likely to hear a DC comic recommendation, maybe one or two, over the next 2 months, because I'm not reading any of this stuff, and it sounds like you're unimpressed as well. Now that we've got that out of the way, Drew, I think we've my conscience is clean. I've said what I had to say. Although I will be reviewing Night Terrors First Blood #1 on Monday. Doc and I already did it. I'm not going to subjugate him to that anymore. Let's talk about the good stuff. We're going to start out with the indie comic books. Recommending No One, #4 from Image Comics. Kyle Higgins, Geraldo Borges on this one. This is a slow burn mystery about the identity of No One and what he actually did. There's a copycat going out there. There's a former Pittsburgh Police Department guy. I think his name is Ben Kern. It's something like that. He's involved in this. And then there's this lady that's a reporter. She's involved, and her mom's a famous reporter, and she kind of calls her out and stuff like that. It's definitely a different flavor of comic book as far as the massive verse that this is actually taking place in. But I think it's a good change, although I would like to know the identity of the damn No One character. But there's definitely some interesting things going on here. And in a bad week, this was all right.
Yeah, it's all right. That's a good way to put it. And it's a very interesting series. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think this would work better as a novel or a novella than a comic book, because reading through this and analyzing the pacing of it, the pacing is off in this. Like I said, is very exposition heavy. Like 3/4 of the way through, then like toward the last third, then the action kicks in. No one shows up. It's like, oh, now I'm awake. Okay, now something's happening. But it's not bad in a off week, and there are some interesting characters, but don't expect action in this comic book. I'll say that it's something more along the lines of From Hell. It's a dialogue heavy, very investigation heavy, which is not bad. Some people may misinterpret that me saying like I hate it. No, I don't hate it. It's fine. It's just lower your expectations when reading this. I'll say that.
Yeah, they're actually going to have to deliver something in the not too distant future. People are going to check out of that one. Now, speaking of comic books with a lot of exposition and maybe not as much action as you would anticipate, recommending Spawn 343 from Image Comics, Rory McConville with Carlo Barberi on art. I'm a big fan of Carlo Barberi. It absolutely looks like $1 million. And we get a ton of exposition and payoffs to things that Todd McFarlane had been building up for like 10 years in this damn comic book. We've got like Cataclysm and Sid, and then Heaven is absolutely going to go down to hell, and they're attacking them. We've been talking about this for a very long time. And it's all coming to a head here, and obviously Spawn is caught in the middle. I thought it was a really exciting thing, even though Todd didn't write this one.
Spawn is such an interesting flavor, because that there's a grand idea with everything, but you really feel like Todd is just they're like inching closer and closer to things. They're just really pacing it out. Nothing really big happens in a lot of these issues. It's just inching closer to like the next big event, which is this. The dead zones are open. Heaven and hell are at war. It's just one of those things where it's like I'm hopefully sooner or later we're going to get to the big war coming up. We got a little taste of it in this with forces fighting with one another, like on a page or so. But I want to see the big cataclysmic event. It's not bad. It's not great. It's another one like No One. It's good. It's okay in a bad week. But Carlos Barberi's art in this is terrific. It's really good. Todd does have a great eye for talent when it comes to art, especially interior art. Yeah, do check out Spawn, guys.
Definitely picking up the pace. If you've been reading and you're like, well, they're not paying anything off. Well, they paid off like 4 things in that particular comic book. You're recommending Kong the Great War #2 from Dynamite, Alex Cox writing, Tommaso Bianchi on art here. And I will say this, if you're a fan of King Kong and you're expecting him in this comic book, you might not see him. He might be a silhouette and a big foot, and that's about it. It's more about the people coming over on the U-boat.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, if you are, and that goes to the complaint I've had sometimes. It's like, how can you have a comic called King Kong and King Kong isn't in the damn comic? It's like, I understand. However, it's a very, very fast-paced series so far. 2 issues in, you have these German U-boat survivors shipwrecked on Monster Island in 1917, and they're surviving dinosaurs, or surviving drowning, getting eaten, and at the same time, bear in mind this is during World War I. These are Germans. doing these individuals, they did horrific things, and they're on a monster island with monsters doing horrific things to them. So it's like, who really is the monster here in this case on this island? Who are you rooting for? And I like stuff like that. That's great. And some of the monster effects, I love it, and the creatures look great. And I can't wait to see the great the build up to when we eventually get to see Kong. And he's teased at the end of this. There's a silhouette of him in the background. But I really dig this. I love monsters. I love King Kong. And if you like King Kong, you like dinosaurs, Monster Island, World War I, do give this a check. Do check this out. It's really good.
Absolutely. And those are indie comic book recommendations. Now let's go talk about Marvel Comics, because we ain't got nothing left to say about DC. Recommending Daredevil number 13 as we're heading down the final stretch of Chip Zdarsky and Marco Cicchetto's run. Daredevil is in all white. He is going to save some souls and all this stuff as he's trying to redeem some people. The art from Marco Cicchetto just looks so perfect still. It's beautiful.
His art in this is gorgeous. This is probably the first issue in a long while where I've said to myself, I would love to have any page from this comic that he did. Because from the opening page, hell is beautiful. And this, I love it. But it's effective. It's Daredevil going to a more or less hell. It's not hell per se, but a hell zone to save his friends, to rescue his friends, to bring them back. At the same time, he's encountering his demons, his past failures. But at the same time, he comes back to God. He's reassured in his belief in God. He's saying to himself, how could I have doubted you, Lord? And he comes back. And it's a tale of redemption for him, effectively, from following the Fist and him and Elektra following the Fist. And but at the end, he does rescue his friends. But does Daredevil escape? Does he make it out? You got to read to find out. This is the first issue of Daredevil in over a year, I think, that I've really, truly enjoyed, because for a long time now, it hasn't been that good. And this issue was terrific. And if you've been on the fence about Daredevil, please do check this out. If you've enjoyed it, you should love this issue because it's amazing.
The final recommendation that we do have this week also features very, very good comic book art. Venom Lethal Protector Volume 2, number 5, David Michelini, Fareed Karami, who's been a revelation on this comic book just as far as the visuals. Every single one of these pages has a kinetic energy about it. There's something about it that just looks amazing. And every single page that you turn, you're waiting for somebody to eat, I don't know, some French fries and have a conversation. Absolutely not. It's all action all the time. It looks like action-based storytelling in the very best possible way, period. And Fareed Karami needs to get elevated from these out-of-continuity side stories and needs to be on one of the main books, because this dude absolutely gets it.
Absolutely. Every single issue he has done the art for has been a banger. I would just love to own any single page he's done in this book, especially issue 2 with Silver Sable. That was probably his crowning achievement in issue 2. Silver Sable was so thick in that issue, but she's great in this one as well. It's Venom v Venomized Doom, and it is terrific. I love it, and they do throw down.
It's not Venom; it's Eddie Brock.
Eddie Brock, yeah, it's Eddie. Sorry, yeah.
You don't got his powers.
That's right. Yeah, it's desymbioticed Eddie Brock versus Venomized Dr. Doom. It is really, really good. Very, like you said, very kinetic, action packed. This is action all the way through, and it does not disappoint in the least, all the way through to the end. David Michelini, it's so great. We said it before, I'll say it again. It is so great seeing these legendary, talented writers still working at Marvel, and they're showing a lot of the new quote-unquote talent today, just how it's really done. And David is just taking these guys to school right now, showing how you write a Venom comic, because this is hands down so much better than anything Marvel is doing with in-continuity Venom right now. It's completely schooling it. It is like Dikembe Mutombo dunking Muggsy Bogues right now, dunking over him. 90s reference. But I got to recommend this all the way through and through. If you didn't check this out, please do check this out, and you're a Venom fan. What is wrong with you? Get this, own this. You will not regret it.
Drew, they have a word for this. It's called a banger, bro.
Yes, they do.
It's a banger.
Yes,
absolutely. Normally, we would talk about DC Comics and whatever they produced that was good this week, but there's nothing to talk about. Fuck you very much, DC Comics. I'll give you the last word, Drew.
Yes, if you haven't checked it out already, Born of Blood 4 Special Edition is on Kickstarter right now. We are currently sitting at $43,000 in not even 24 hours. Shikari doing the main cover. Please do check it out, guys. If you have already backed it, I appreciate it. Thank you. You will not regret it.
We have come to the end of the road. Normally, these are almost all positive, but we had to say something about DC Comics, and this Night Terrors thing is absolutely terrible. But I've talked about a lot of comic book stuff right here on the channel with a lot of people. If you want some more thinking critical and you're not sure which video to watch, YouTube has looked at what you like to view and what I like to create and decided this is the best video I ever created in the history of my life directly for you. Definitely check this one out right here. There's nothing in the video description. It's just right there. Check it out.